Alright, what is going on, everyone? How are you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back again on the dead hardcore Ironman, by the way. Always a blast, but this is the second edition of RuneScape Rankings. In my first video of this, I ranked skills in old school RuneScape from my least favorite to favorite from the perspective of a main account. A lot of you seem to enjoy that video, and I obviously had a lot of fun with it, so this time we are going to go through from an Ironman perspective what skills I think are useful, what aren't, and really what's more enjoyable. In my latest video, I gave away 4 bonds, and those winners are up on screen now. If you guys are a winner, feel free to PM me in game or hit up the Discord link below. In addition to that, we'll be giving away 3 bonds this video, so if you guys want to be entered, just leave a like, subscribe, and also let me know what your least favorite RS skill is. I think it'd be some pretty good info to get together on, so let me know. So now on to the rankings, how I'll be figuring out how all these skills rank. Basically, I'll be doing it on a scale of 1 to 10 in 2 different categories. The first one being the overall usefulness of the skill in the Ironman category. Some skills obviously weigh a lot heavier in this category that can be worth more on an Ironman because you have to do it yourself. Along with that, I have an enjoyability category, just how much I actually like grinding and just training this skill on an Ironman. Kicking it off with the number 23, we will start with my least favorite, and that is Runecrafting. Now, this is just personal, obviously this entire list is, so if your skill's low, don't feel offended, but for me, Runecrafting is something I find myself easily getting burnt out of, so it's not something I all too much enjoy. On top of that, the usefulness of it on an account, while it may aid your account a little bit since you don't actually have to buy the runes, there are a lot of ways you go about getting coins on an Ironman, and typically I find myself with enough cash to where I just buy runes instead of actually Runecrafting, so for those reasons it is the last skill on the list. Now number 22 is smithing, and this one was very close obviously with Runecrafting. However, I find smithing a bit more enjoyable. There's some AFK-ness and dart tips. Along with that, whenever you're using blast furnace, it goes by relatively quickly, so it's not too much of a grind. The usefulness of it though is pretty lackluster. It's not all too great, and you really don't find yourself using much from smithing other than the occasional dart tip. We find ourselves with the first combat skill at 21, and that is prayer. Maybe this is just, you know, a personal vendetta, I guess. As far as how useful it is, I feel like a 4 pretty much describes this. Once you hit 70, it's pretty much over. You got piety, you got everything you need. And then if you have bones on your account, it's a breeze to use them. That's fun. But the act of getting the bones, which is a lot more of what the Ironman's about, not that great. Blue dragons were just such a pain. I absolutely hated it. At number 20, we have Hunter. Now, Hunter is a skill that I really personally don't like training, so as far as fun for me, I have it at a 3. I was also a hardcore, so I couldn't do black sallies or chins, which just made me sit there at red sallies and just feel like absolute shit. Really wasn't that fun, and honestly, just really resented that. Along with that, the usefulness of it, I mean, early game getting yourself a glory and catching some implinks is really, really good. But, I mean, late game, other than maybe some black chins every now and then, you're not doing a whole lot with it. So I don't think it aids you that much in progressing your account. At number 19, we have mining. And mining on an Ironman is actually something that I do find kind of fun. I mean, just knowing that I'm working towards something makes it enjoyable, because on a main account you're absolutely doing nothing. If I'm at Motherlode Mine, you know, I'm making a few 100k an hour, which is just, that's change really. The usefulness of it, I mean, I'll admit, if you get 99 mining, obviously you'll have some ore, but the amount of ore compared to the time you spent mining is pretty uncomparable. So while it is a skill that you have to work on eventually and does progress yourself, it doesn't really work into your account that much. At 18, I have hit points. I don't know what I really have to say about this. The fun of it is you're training it through pretty much every skill, so it's pretty easy. The usefulness of hit points, while having high HP is useful, each individual level pretty much means nothing, so I don't put it too highly. At 17, we have Fletching. I got mine up at the beginning mainly through Winter Tot, so that made it somewhat easy. It is just a kind of a fun skill because on an Ironman, it's nice to AFK something that you know is going to help your account, which you can do with Fletching. The usefulness of it, though, it just gives you some stuff to alch, really, which is useful, but, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not a whole lot. And following Fletching, we have fire making. They go hand in hand. You know, I honestly just did 99 fire making right off the bat of my account. I thought it was pretty useful for me. I mean, it gave me some stuff to progress early, but big picture didn't give me a whole lot to work with. I did find it moderately fun. You know, you get to AFK at Wintertot and listen to the absolutely terrible chat that there is there, but, you know, it's something to keep you going. Then moving on to 15, personally, I did this before the Arty Night update, so I guess maybe it was a bit more fun. I mean, clicking your inventory once every now and then obviously isn't too big of a hassle, but, you know, it's a little bit more focusing now. It is somewhat useful, I'd say useful than some other skills, because you do actually get a decent amount of GP here, and on top of that, I guess you do get some good seeds at the Master Farmer, so it really does supply a decent bit of herbs along with cash that you have on your account. But big picture, I think it's really something just for med-level Ironmen to be able to kind of boost themselves. Now at 14, I have woodcutting. I do find woodcutting to be pretty fun. I mean, it's just really AFK, a lot, especially magics and redwoods and stuff like that you end up doing a lot on an Ironman. I do say it's pretty useful when you consider that it can literally fund both the skill of fire making and fletching both. I think that implies a lot of usefulness out of the skill as a whole. At number 13, we have agility. This is one that, in my regular mains video, I really don't give a whole lot of use to agility. I think in almost any situation where you need it, you just drink a stam pot, and that's about it, really. There are some useful obstacles with it, though, so I do give it props there, and especially on an Ironman, obstacles and high agility is a lot more essential because, well, at the beginning of the game and for much of the early game, you won't have any stamina to work with, so it is very useful on an Ironman, I do think. And as far as the enjoyability, it is one that I find more enjoyable on an Ironman, because on an Ironman you're so self-focused on the account as a whole that you really want to just train everything. On a main account, sometimes you get distracted by money, and if that's not a factor, then I don't mind agility as much. At number 12, we have construction, and really construction is just woodcutting, so much with the same of what I said to woodcutting, except for here I also have to burn cash. So not all that fun, but it is very useful, especially endgame once you start to get some of the pools and jewelry. The usefulness of construction really relies on if you plan on getting to endgame content on an Ironman, which can be hard. Next up, we have cooking. Honestly, maybe one of my more favorite skills. I do really enjoy cooking. I just think it's so simplistic, and there's something about it that I enjoy. The usefulness of it, I mean, it is all of your food's pretty much coming in through fishing, so you're going to need to cook it. So it does supply everything you can do unless you plan on buying food, which isn't really viable for anyone. Breaking into the top 10 now, we have crafting, and crafting is one that is really useful. I think of it a lot along the lines of construction, where late game it supplies a lot of stuff that you're going to need. However, it is kind of a grind getting up until that point. Now, crafting beginning game I actually found kind of enjoyable because you had to like self-fund crafting, but late game it is just standing at charter ships and hopping world to world. Honestly, not something I found to be too much fun. At number 9, we have fishing, and this is just, I honestly, fishing on an Ironman is absolutely great, especially with the Karambwan spot where you just go there AFK for 40 seconds and then run another lap. Makes it really easy, and also being able to catch Karambwans all the time is really good. A very good skill for an Ironman, and along with that, it is very useful since it funds a lot of your Slayer and PVM type things. At number 8, we have defense, personally a skill that I just don't enjoy because it actually doesn't benefit you in combat really, since you never need a defensive boost, but that's fine. It is useful in the sense that you get gear upgrades as your account progresses and really unlocks a lot of useful things for PVM that you just really can't live without. Next up, we have farming at number 7. Farming is one that I really don't enjoy on a main account. I don't like running, I don't like banking, I don't like doing anything. But on an Ironman, you're practically funding Herblore, which makes it a lot more incentivizing. I really did find it kind of peaceful just knowing exactly what my run is and doing it more often. On a main account, I'm not as motivated to because of the lack of herbs that I need. I'm just doing it for money, which I really don't need. So the usefulness of the skill is obviously pretty high, but I don't find myself ever really kind of setting myself a farming goal. I just get it up casually as I go. And then next we have range at number 6. Now personally this might be a little low for some people. The one thing I absolutely don't enjoy, I think range is useful as a skill, but I say that it a lot relies on a blowpipe, and if you're someone like a hardcore, then it's going to come really late game. So for me, it's not something I necessarily see as really upgrading much. Like once you get in rune crossbow, like you're kind of set for a while, but it is an enjoyable skill, and I do find it to have a decent use at many PVM. But Breaking into the top 5, we have Strength, and this is just the de-skim life that you're going to be living. I do find the skill to be useful because this is how you get more XP per hour. However, there are really no upgrades on this skill, so it is useful, but at the same time, you really don't see much of it on an Ironman that you wouldn't see on a main account. It is enjoyable to train. Personally, my favorite combat skill to train as far as just hitting, seeing higher hits and knowing that you're working towards higher hits is pretty motivating. Then at number 4, I have Attack. I personally find this to be just as fun as Strength to train. Not to actually train, but the incentive behind it, I guess. Oftentimes, and especially on an Ironman, you're looking forward to the D-Skim upgrade, the Whip upgrade, and really that is just the big end game is the Whip. So I find Attack to be a really enjoyable one, just to look forward to the future gear that you're actually able to achieve on the account. Then next at number 3 is the one that I'm sure hopped a ton from my original video, and that is Herblore, because, well, one, I find the act of doing Herblore to be very fun or enjoyable on the account. I might not find farming to be as enjoyable, like doing the runs maybe, but once you have the herbs, once you have the secondaries, it's pretty easy to do. You just sit there and watch the XP pour in. And as far as the usefulness of Herblore, I do find it to be one that I'm constantly looking to see when I get my next potion, because it progresses pretty slowly, and so it takes you a while to get towards some of those endgame potions that you might need mid-game. Sarah Brews are really late unlocks, so I find myself just constantly pushing to do Herblore, and it makes it one of the more enjoyable things to do on the account. Then with the silver medal, I have Magic. Now Magic is one that I honestly find fun on the main game, on a regular account, but an Ironman makes it all the better. You feel like there are so many spells that help progress your account, like, you know, Bowstring, Molten Glass, like stuff like that you're just using constantly. So it really is one of the more useful skills in the sense that almost everything you do kind of runs through it in a sense, and you need it for a lot of things. Is the skill fun to train? I'd say, yeah, for the most part. I mean, other than maybe some early to mid-game kind of lulls where you might be doing some high alching, I mean, really once you reach 70, you're almost bursting everything, molten glass making, you know. There are really just so many options at endgame that I find it never to get boring. And then finally, if you know me, number 1, we're gonna have Slayer. Slayer is a skill that I know not everyone enjoys, but if you can push through the kind of, you know, it's not even a slow early game, but it's just kind of a boring early game. Ultimately, I think Slayer progresses pretty well, and the payoffs are absolutely worth it. For an Ironman, a lot of the upgrades you're going to get for PVM and a lot of the supplies that you're going to get for stuff like Herblore are going to come through Slayer, and it's just constantly something you'll have to be doing. I find that switching up the monster you kill is something that makes the game a little bit more enjoyable, you know, gets over the repetitiveness of these tasks. And if in addition to that, I'm adding just an absolute boatload of items to my bank that are going to be useful for my account, I don't know how that isn't the best skill in the game. So now we'll look at the biggest movers as far as rankings from my main account to an Ironman. You could kind of see this as how you should go about viewing these skills before you go in, what's going to get worse, what's going to get better. Runecrafting is one that I have at -10 in rankings because I just find myself with disposable cash, so I pay for everything instead of doing runecrafting. Prayer I have at -13 rankings because, well, I still feel like it's just as useless as it is on a main account. However, on an Ironman, the pain to train it is so much more, it just takes forever, so it's not really that enjoyable. The biggest positives was agility at +9. I just find it way more enjoyable to train on an Ironman because I know it's like, you know, I'm working towards something. I have farming moving up 12 rankings as well because, you know, just everything kind of runs through it. Your Herblore, which eventually leads to your potions, which leads to your PVM. Like, it is such a stem of growth for your account. And then I also have Herblore at 12 rankings higher as well, for much of the same reason I do with farming. It just allows you to do so much endgame that it's so much more of a focus. So that is it for me. That is my rankings. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Even if you disagree with the rankings, just make sure to, you know, let me know why, what you thought was wrong with them. Obviously it's subjective, but some of these things, maybe I didn't take into account certain things, and you can let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, though, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more in the future, make sure to subscribe. And as I said before, comment your least favorite skill down below. With that said, though, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. And, okay, thanks, bye. Alright, free-for-all raid drop. Here we go. Defender hill. I mean, guess who's using it, though? That's fine. That's fine. No biggie. What is it?